Hi, everybody. Welcome. A little early. I'm doing it a couple hours early because I got plans today. So here is my Wednesday wrap-up video. Welcome. Hey, Barrett. Barrett's here. Welcome. There we go. My name is Margaret Pennard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy writer and reader, and you are on my channel. So welcome to Booktube. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. I've only got a one book wrap up today, so it's going to be a quickie. And as I said, then I'm going to get on with my plans. I started this live stream with a little banner so that y'all could see where to pick up my books if you're curious about the historical fiction and fantasy that I write. So enough of all that. June Wednesday wrap up. What are we focusing on this month? You can tell by my little emojis here and the thumbnail. I'm focusing on Caribathon books because it's a summer vibe. It's all great. Pride reads because it's June and Pride Month, and audiobooks because June is also audiobook month. So I told everyone why I was focusing on those in an earlier video. I may pop that up later to attract your eyes. But for today, I've got this one book. Let's see, what do we have here? The one book that I finished between last Wednesday and this Wednesday. It's my friend's book, Singing Lessons for the Stylish Canary by Laura Stanfill. So I'm going to talk about this in a second and give it a good, thorough review. But I wanted to mention that these don't exactly correspond with the readathons I just talked to. But, hang on. I'm also reading this. I'm almost finished with it. Jean Rhys and The Voyage in the Dark from 1934. So that is a Caribathon choice. The main character is from the West Indies and is autobiographically based on the author's experience in London. So very interesting. And I'm very enjoying it. I didn't know if I would, but I love Jean Rhys's writing. It's very particular writing, which is very different from this and sort of complementary in an opposite way. So that's the Caribathon read. And then the other one that I'm reading that does apply to the readathons I mentioned is Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. This is my first Alexis Hall read, so I'm a little past halfway. It's very enjoyable. The narrator is Nika Okoye, who's fantastic. So really enjoying listening to her as Robin Goodfellow and her puckish knavery as she narrates this tale in Regency times with some supernatural, obviously. So that's the Pride read and the audiobook read and all the goodness. So yeah. So, but I do have the side chicks of the books, which is what I'm reporting on. Last week was Cozy Mystery, Bewitched, Bothered, and Biscotti. It was good. And this week it is a literary fiction set in historical times. So let's get on that after I say hello. So Barrett said, lurking and napping, giving that watch time love. Thank you, Barrett. Oh, love the earrings. Thank you. These are from Barcelona. I get most of my jewelry from traveling, so it's nice to remember it. And it matches the sweater my mom just got me, so yes. AF Stewart, hello. Anita is here. Richard Holiday, hello. He's saying hello. Yes, reporting me to the readathon police. No mood reading allowed. I know. We got a balance, right? We got some intention and thought and some whimsy and, I don't know, flibbity-gibbetedness. Felicia, Dreaming Truth author, is here. Hello. Yay. And Richard's giving us Papa Literature. Yes. So here's the deal. My disclaimer about Laura Stanfill is I know her. She's a friend and colleague in Portland, Oregon. She is, in fact, a publisher of a small press called Forest Avenue Press with a dozen or so titles, which are awesome. And she definitely goes in for literary fiction and whimsical. But when she went to publish her own book, she queried another small press called Lanternfish and went with them. So I don't know exactly what the thought was behind that. Maybe it had some stigma thinking behind it, or maybe she just didn't want to do all the work for her own book. But it's I think, a press from back east, and apparently she had a wonderful experience with them. So yes, the book, that took her a long time to write, and we got to hear a little bit through the process. But I'm going to be giving a live book review that is completely my honest thoughts. So, don't feel like you're going to get shortchanged with what I think about the book. So let's see. Details. Historical fantasy, and I would also call it maybe fabulist. I had a little talk with my friend earlier about this word, and the genre, like historical fantasy, I often think of as fantastical elements that move the plot and really get at character traits. And this seemed more like the backdrop and like a little bit of mystery was what the fantastical elements were doing. So I think that it was more for the purpose of giving you the feel of a tall tale and an epic history to drip down to the modern day. For the book, it's like 1840s. I think it's the foreground of the story. And just give you a sort of perspective. Like you get modern day ordinary courage. At the end, you get a couple generations back, supernatural intervention and sort of strange things happening. So I like that it has these two depths that sort of expand your view of things happening in the book. It's really nice. It's set mostly in early 19th century France in a place called Mireville, which is supposed to be a fictionalized version of Mirecourt, which is actually in real life known for, I think she said serenettes, but also violins. And I know someone who worked as a teacher in the French program right after college, teaching in Mirecourt, which was really cool. So like another connection. With Zosha, also in Portland. So there you go. But what is a serenette, you say? Serenette. So she gives an explanation, but she does also does a lot of wordplay with this word, with a character name, with an English word, with a French root, and it's very clever. So I will leave that for you to discover. But in actual fact, a serenette is a music box that people will use to play to canaries when it was the fashion to have canaries trained to sing certain songs. And so basically you're taking human notes of certain songs like Frere Jacques or something, putting them into a music box and then training the canaries to sing like a human. So it's an interesting setup that is not, commonplace. So that's where we begin. And I looked up, so mostly in France, but it also comes to the US at the end. And I looked up comps for this book on Storygraph to see what Storygraph thought in terms of characteristics and similar vibes, styles, plots, presentations. And they had some interesting things to say. So they compared it to Circe by Madeline Miller, Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, and The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now, these are the biggest names that are on that list, and they certainly had others that I had not heard of. But that might give you a good idea of what is a comparative title, or it might not. I have not read any of those three, so I can neither deny nor confirm the comparable title moniker. What I would compare this to is actually one of the titles that Laura published at Forest Avenue Press, her own small press, by another author. And the book is called Frolic's Ladder. I'm blanking on the author's name right now because I haven't seen him in years. But that had similar fabulous feelings, as in you're in the land of tall tales and great deeds, and nothing like that happens anymore, but it makes the story feel more expansive and sort of legendary. So that's interesting. I think maybe Jamie Jordan passed on some of that DNA. So Laura has like the whimsy definitely down and her own style, but I think some of that voice is similar. So that's my comp title, which doesn't help many people, but that's fine. Let's see. Other things I can say about this book that I have in my notes. The characters presented as consistent. Okay, so when I say The magical elements gave it depth because it's magical in the past and more ordinary in the present. The characters that we meet have a very, what's the word, deceptive consistency. So I would say this, that when you meet people in this book, they say things exactly as they think, and it doesn't read modern at all. When you read Jean Reese, for example, and she's doing a bit of stream of consciousness, and she says, "Oh, I can tell he hates me," or, "Oh, I feel like I'm going to fall over, and what happened to that last whiskey and soda?" And she sounds like she's tight. And you're getting all this uncertainty and feelings and contradictions, and it sounds very modern to a reader or a reader's ear. This one sounds very sure of itself, even in a fantastical universe, which is a really interesting choice, like juxtaposition, I would say. So I read along, and the characters appear very consistent, but that sets off the growth of a few characters that we do follow. So I like that. Oh yes, okay. So what I call this, I don't know if this makes sense to anyone but me, is fairy tale inevitability rather than descriptive or journalistic in style. So when I read this, for example, let me turn down one of these pages here. Each day arrived and concluded with the ease of a well-lubricated egg-laying. With Delia and Georges often dining together, Alistair preferring to eat in the men's smoking parlor. Delia pampered her handsome guest, peppered him with informational tidbits, and untwirled locks of her hair to retwirl around her finger. It's maybe not the best passage to illustrate this, but it's giving me once there was a blank. It's giving me like fairy tale style. And when you hear that and you recognize it and it's familiar to that register in your life, I feel like there's a feeling of inevitability to the story. Like the characters were always going to do this, and it's sort of archetypal. Versus descriptive and journalistic, meaning this happened, then that happened. They're both declarative, they're both statements, but there's something about the word choice and the meter. And funny is that Laura has a journalistic background. She used to work in newspapers. So I think it's funny that I don't consider this, for whimsical historical fantasy, at all journalistic. So very cool. Style. And it does have style in the title. So the structure of the book, it uses a very long sort of setup to build our background before we have a foreground. So let me just read the blurb here from Storygraph. When Henri discovers a stash of American letters in his father's drawer, he learns he's not the firstborn son of Georges Blanchard at all. Henri has an older half-brother born to one of Georges' American customers. When he crosses the ocean to encounter his half-brother at last, Henri discovers that there's an entire world beyond Mireville, and there may be a perfect place for him yet. It's like half. So the story is really about Henri, and his sort of growing up. He has difficulties with his family. His family is peculiar. He has trouble feeling like he measures up to his dad. He's very close to his mom. He has friends that are only girls and doesn't fit in with the other boys. There's a lot of like growing up themes there. But we go like, I don't know, 150 pages in a 350-page book before we get to him, because we start with the grandparents and the sort of normal, here's the baseline. And then we go to the son and the fantastical event that happened and how that affected Georges. And then we get to Georges' trip to the American customer and that liaison, shall we say. And then we finally meet Henri and sort of know all this backstory and know all this stuff that sets him up. I still have Richard's comment. So yeah. So the style is to have a very long draw into the foreground. Oh, I like this. it gives a fantastical backdrop to ordinary growth, courage, and fortitude. And let me read you a piece about the ordinary courage, growth, and fortitude. Page 240. Oh, here's the ordinary bits, right? So after the fantastical elements comes the like more modern historical. Tante Pierrette ran a bustling bridal wear business, specializing in puffed sleeves that she hoped would come into fashion. Pale lavender, oyster gray, rosebud pink, the yellow of earliest morning. Aimee might as well have been working with white, as blood showed on all of them. Pricked her finger while sewing. Every day she woke up, ate whatever her aunt had set out before locking the pantry, and shared a few bites of her portion with whichever sister seemed the hungriest. Then they clustered in the parlor with the other hired girls, the ones who arrived at daybreak. They spent their hours elbowing one another for the scissors or a certain shade of thread. Each evening they waited for the light to fade so they could quit work for the day. Aimee looked forward to fall, when darkness would arrive earlier, although lying awake on her upstairs pallet, it would be harder to ignore an empty belly. Evening meals were only slightly more filling than the morning ones. Tante Pierrette never ate better than they did at mealtime, but her ample figure made Aimee imagine she kept a secret stash of food just for herself. This didn't look anything like the New York Aimee had imagined, the one her father had promised. So we came from this magical land, and now we're here in 19th century New York in like a sweatshop, and hearing from the point of view of one of our, very friendly, lovable characters, and see how she's handling herself. So I liked the displacement, and again the backdrop and the courage that's revealed. One of the other elements, I've got like two more things here. One of the other elements I really liked was the humor. There's lots of very sly, very subtle humor in here. It's a lot in the narration, like in the non-dialogue, because the dialogue from the characters is so straight and earnest. So like it feels almost like an Easter egg. And speaking of Easter eggs, hold on. Page 104. Henry. Aimee could convince Henri of anything, and she knew it, and there they were, exchanging boots, leaning on each other for support. He bent down and laced his boots onto her feet. Henri had discovered his grandmother's British novels earlier that year, and Aimee wore the very sort of cloak someone would put in a frontispiece illustration. And then in italics. It would be nice to live in a book, he thought, pressed safe between the pages. So there's just clever wordplay and sort of meta jokes and like side winks. So I really like that. It's subtle, it's like low key and slow paced for those who like that. A very earnest main character and several interesting and different secondary characters that contrast and give you a nice view. Some of the secondary characters that had the most page time and the most interesting developments. Serine, the grandmother. Charles, one of his friends, Charles. Geneviève, his mother. His mother occupies a lot of the book in terms of her marriage and her emotional state and her relationship with Henri, and then her ending of the story. And then Delia, the contrasting mother in America who he ends up meeting. So I really liked the sort of dynamics and the sort of ping pong contrasts between these different characters. And then final comment is that I think there was particular attention to, during the growing up episodes, how people grow up in neurodiverse situations, right? So Henri has an interesting family situation, yes, but you also are introduced to some of his friends who are misfits for some reason. One can't look at people, one runs away, one doesn't conform to society's norms in different ways. And so you get a range of experiences, and people accept them for who they are. The children do. Not the townspeople for sure, but the children are able to do that growing up. And so I like that sort of openness as well. So definite, like solid 4-star read. Good for anyone who wants like a slow paced, sort of plain but heartwarming and, you know, subtle smile as you're reading, not really guffaw type reading, and a happy ending and an open ending that's like encouraging and optimistic, etc. So you can buy that from bookshop.org on my list, and support a friend and support a small press and do a good thing. So that is the book that I finished from last week to this week. And I just wanted to give an update on the current reads because they will be reported on next week. Oh, we have Jim here. Hi, Jim. Hey, y'all. Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. And Leslie, Good Books, Gers, and Purrs. Welcome. Just Eva. Hey, hey, hey. And Shannon is even here. Just got back from getting the kiddo. So nice to see you. Hope you got to sleep a little bit. All right, so the current reads. I said at the beginning, I am making my way through, this is 4 books, so I'm just looking to make my way through one. It's actually from her 3rd published book in 1934, Voyage in the Dark. Jean Rhys is someone who came from the West Indies and before the Windrush generation, not after World War II, but in the 20s. And so you get to hear about a very different type of life in London and sort of chorus girl meets world kind of tale. And I'm loving the writing. Again, it's very different from the one I just described, but fascinating and friendly. I don't know if like someone from 150 years ago has a voice that can be friendly to you, but yeah, I've been afraid to read Wide Sargasso Sea, being such a Jane Eyre fan. So maybe this will convince me that it will be a good time. So I got a few pages left in that. And then the other current read that I'll be reporting on soon is Mortal Follies, which is a guffaw-inducing book. I've been out on my walks around town and like definitely had a big smile on my face or actually laughed out loud listening to Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall, read by Nneka Okoye. So definitely recommend that, although, you know, I still have 4 hours on that one, so you may want to wait. What else? Okay. I've done all the things. The only thing I have left is to remind people upcoming events. Besides my current reads next week, which is pretty darn ordinary, we have a huge thing coming up, which is the conference this weekend. So I just spent some time this morning on Instagram putting up stories of anyone who had posted about it, and only a few people had. So if you post about AuthorTube Writing Conference on your Instagram, tag me or hashtag, and I will be putting up stories until we start. And then I probably won't be able to keep track. But the next couple days, help get the word out. That would be amazing. And I think the best link to put in would be the AWC playlist link, because that will have the opening session and go right into the keynote and just go right into everyone else's talks, and it's all in one place. So that is right here. It's a bit.ly, very easy one, and hopefully that is easy to pass on to people. So we hope to see lots of your smiling, sunshiny faces this weekend, starting Friday afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. And you can visit the playlist for times for individual presentations or authortubewritingconference.com for the full schedule and descriptions. So there you go. We will still be changing things the last minute, the happy hours, the after parties. Shannon has a whole lot of goodness lined up, so there are like last minute changes, but everything like description wise should be there, and you should definitely plan your weekend around like checking out some of these channels and making friends with some AuthorTubers. Yay! Eva says, I've just shared a video or link in a few places this week. Much appreciated. We have the same IG followers. Yep. And I should go back to Facebook. You're right, because you probably put stuff on Facebook that I have not. So yeah, that's a good point. And Shannon's big thing is that tomorrow, right before the conference, is her Kickstarter launch. My Kickstarter goes live for my novel tomorrow. I will hit the launch button on the live stream scheduled for 3 p.m. I think it's at a.m., so you might want to change the time on the video for tomorrow. When I looked at it, it said 1 a.m. for me, so I think that's 3 a.m. for you. I don't know. I don't know who this is talking about because I don't know what Just Eva posted. Oh, good. Okay, good. Awesome. Yay, okay. Connect with Morgan on Facebook. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Well, yes. So, solid read. You have time to read, and I will be back after the conference to report on my other readathon reads. One of which will be The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. We will be talking about that on a random Thursday night because of all the travel and conference and stuff. But if you're interested in being in the book club and reading really cool books that sometimes flop but often are really good, check that out on my Patreon_MP4. I've got 3 different levels, and you might find something that you like. But other than that, it's going to be a busy, busy June. So take care of yourself. Don't forget to drink water, put on that sunscreen, enjoy the outdoors if you've got some summertime off with people you love, and bring a book. That's my best advice. All right, everybody, thanks for coming by to watch. And now I've got my plans to bring a book with me outside and celebrate the summer because it's summer now. Happy solstice, everybody. Yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye.